appreciate you making a few minutes this morning before the crack of dawn to join us to talk Kansas. So thank you for hopping on.
Of course.
Big talk seems to be that game day is going to Kansas this week for the first time ever for the big TCU matchup, which Mickey was joking earlier that if you'd have told us week one that game day wasn't going to be at Alabama A&M, people probably would not have believed you. How excited is the fan base and the community just to be kind of hosting the premier game this week?
Well, yeah, they've been wanting it for 2 weeks now. There've been tweets sent game day's way saying, come here, bet you won't do it, don't be afraid, things like that. And so for the third try, they actually got him to land. And the last couple of weeks, they didn't announce it until I think Sunday morning. And for whatever reason, game day announced it Saturday night this week. So maybe game day is a little excited too, but there's no question that the KU fans are beyond fired up. I mean, there's just nothing that's not going their way right now. They're winning football games. They're selling out their stadium. They're getting national attention. They're playing well. And these are all really, really rare things for Kansas football.
You mentioned attendance and the 47,223 for this past weekend's game. First back-to-back sellouts at Kansas since 2009. I guess is this team for real? Like, I think that's kind of where people are. They see the hype and should folks be buying into it based on what you've seen of the Jayhawks so far this year?
Yeah, it's a great question because I think the jury's a little bit out still. I do think the most important thing you can answer that question with is they think they're for real. And so who cares what I think or what you think or what anybody thinks? If they believe it in that locker room, then I think that can go a long way. But they've got a great offense. They've got a terrific quarterback. They've got a lot of weapons. Their offensive coordinator has been phenomenal for most of the season. Really runs a unique and imaginative offense and keeps people on their toes, opposing defenses off guard, things of that nature. So I think they can play with anybody for the most part. Their defense is sort of a work in progress and needs to improve, but they gave up 11 points this past weekend and basically won the game for them. So just as we were sort of questioning, well, how good is the defense? Then they show up and win a game. So I do think they're for real. Again, I think they have enough talent and are getting better in important areas, but also they have that confidence. They have that belief that this is no fluke and that they can really play football with anybody. And like I said, that can go a long way. Sometimes that's all you need. And who cares what the outside world thinks? If you believe it, it might be true. So I think, I think the rest of the way is going to be really entertaining. And of course, they've got to win one more game to be bowl eligible, which nobody could have seen coming in year 2 of Lance Leipold's time here. Nobody might have even seen it coming in year 4 or 5. So what he's doing, what he's done to get this thing kick-started again and put a little life into this program and really the whole town, it's phenomenal. I mean, this doesn't happen. This can't happen, and yet here it is happening. So says a lot about him, but a lot about the players in that locker room and his coaching staff. And, to do something like this, it takes them all working together in sync. And they've been that way pretty much the entire time he's been here.
A quick look at that upcoming schedule you mentioned. It's certainly not going to get any easier from here.
Right.
TCU at Oklahoma, they play at Baylor, they host Oklahoma State, Texas Tech on the road, at Texas, or home against Texas, and they close at Kansas State, who itself is playing really great football right now. We had Coach Kleiman on with us last week. When you mentioned Coach Leipold and kind of he came in with a lot of success at smaller programs in Whitewater and at Buffalo, and I imagine there might have been some skepticism early on about, well, how does that translate to playing in the Big 12? Do you think that the fan base or folks are coming around on, okay, this guy's just a coach?
Yeah, that's it, right? I mean, for 10, 12 years, Kansas went through coaches, every 2 or 3 years, and a lot of them came in and talked a good game and said there were a lot of things to like about what they were going to do and then couldn't back it up. And some of them were pretty big names. I mean, Les Miles, Charlie Weiss, like, those are not people that aren't well known in the football world. So I think what the fan base really wanted to see, and probably what the players wanted to see, was a guy who didn't care about any of that other stuff, just cared about coaching football and doing it well. And Lance made it very clear that that's who he is from day one, and that's who he's been consistently throughout this thing. Every week during this start here, 5-0, right? I mean, who saw that coming? So after about 2-0, 3-0, and now every week since then, we're in there in his press conferences asking him questions, trying to get him to put this into perspective, trying to get him to say, yeah, this is pretty great, or yeah, look at us, or whatever. And he won't do it. He says, the best line he gave the other day after the game, after the win against Iowa State, was, we've got 7 games left and this is great, but, we got to finish the story. This is far from over. We're only in week 5. And so I think that that's been so good for the program, and that's who he is. That's not new to Kansas. That's not something he dreamt up for his job here. He's been consistently that way at every coaching stop he's had, and he's all about hard work. He's all about discipline. He's all about humility, and he's all about just making sure that those things remain in place. And he believes that if they are there, everything else will just kind of fall in line, because it's been that way everywhere he's been. He's had success. He's built programs. This is not a surprise to him. It's a surprise to everybody else, though.
I'll let you go with this. I think you just got Zoom bombed by our next guest. But I asked my friend Dan Brown, who's the biggest Kansas fan I know, give me a question that'll really knock Matt's socks off here. And he said, we're going to ask about Jalen Daniels, quarterback, and where he stacks up and what his NFL potential is. Give us the Cliff's Notes on Jalen for those who haven't seen him play yet.
Yeah, well, Jalen's one of the nicest kids on the planet. So we'll start there, because he's got a $10 million smile. He's got talent. He's got charisma. He's a great leader. And he's a hardworking dude. He's determined. He's the face of this program right now. And there's been a lot of talk about that, right? He's been in the Heisman Trophy conversation, albeit early, still in the conversation, and his numbers are deserving of that. He's had a great start to this season, and he had a great finish to last season. So the talk about specifically the NFL stuff, yeah, he's got a chance to make it there. I don't know when that will be, because he could have 2 more years here too. But I know that he's just sort of a reflection of his head coach, which is show up, work hard, do your best every day, lead this program, have some fun while doing it. And, sometimes that makes him a little boring to interview. I'll be honest. He gives some good coach speak answers as a quarterback. But again, he's a terrific kid, and he really, he never mails it in. It's nothing like that. He's just there to answer the questions and then get back to work. And so I think, he's very gifted. His arm's massive. He can throw the ball 70, 80 yards. He's obviously shown he can move around with his legs and scramble and pick up yards that way. I think there's just the easiest way to sum him up is, at this point, this is a kid who would do whatever it takes to get Kansas another yard, another win, to help a teammate, all that stuff. And so when you've been looking for a quarterback who has those kinds of characteristics for 12, 13 years, ever since Todd Reesing back in their early 2000s glory days, they found him, and he's the guy, and he loves being the guy, and his teammates love that he's the guy. And I think the rest falls in place as it does. He's not really too worried about the NFL or the Heisman Trophy or anything like that. He wants to go beat TCU. He wants to go win the first quarter. He wants to go score on the first series. And, those things sound a little cheesy and cliche, but they're genuine with this guy and with Leipold and the whole program right now. They are not looking, beyond their nose. They're not looking too far into the future. They're just like, let's see what's next, and let's try to win that and see what happens from there. So Jalen's a perfect embodiment of that, and he really fits his head coach. That's for sure.
Well, speaking of what's next, we're going to be joined by Coach Sonny Dykes here in a second. But Matt,
look at that.
I appreciate you joining us for a few minutes. I hope Coach was taking notes. when you're talking about Jalen and what to expect from Kansas this weekend. And we'll look forward to your coverage throughout the season. Thanks again, Matt. You and your staff do a great job out in Lawrence.
Sounds great. Thanks for not making me follow Coach Dykes either. I appreciate you doing it this
The
way.
least we can do. Thank you, Matt.